From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
This morning, AgDay celebrates a milestone.
Weighing right now, the U.S. exports less than 50,000 pounds of beef to Japan.
As Democrats pass a landmark climate bill that could be a boost for biofuels.
It also provides $500 million for higher blend infrastructure for retailers, which is very important on the ethanol side.
We break down the key ag provisions right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. The so-called Inflation Reduction Act is now headed to the president's desk for his signature. The House passing the bill on Friday with a party line vote. The bill contains several provisions that will impact ag. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with more. Michelle.
Clinton, the $740 billion bill contains a number of key programs that are positive for farmers and ranchers. They revolve around biofuels, farm debt forgiveness, conservation, and on-farm energy costs. The key will be how and when they can be implemented. The IRA package includes around $38 billion for agriculture with $19.5 billion for conservation, a good step moving into a new farm bill.
There's $40 billion in funding for agriculture, which would be great as we go into the next farm bill to hopefully have that. It's not an automatic. We'd have to do the budget committees next year and see if they will continue it and see if it can be moved, any of it, from just the conservation programs. But it would be really helpful.
Biofuels scored $13.3 billion for Farm Bill Energy Title programs, such as $3 billion for renewable energy projects in rural areas, plus extension of the $1 per gallon tax credit for blending biomass-based diesel, so both biodiesel and renewable diesel.
So it will go out another 2 years, and then from that point forward through 2027, it becomes what they call a tech-neutral producer credit. And so there's some different accounting methods that are used depending on the greenhouse gas methodology. Different feedstocks would have various tax credit capabilities at that point.
It additionally establishes a tax credit for sustainable aviation fuel
at $1.25 per gallon, and then it can go up to $1.75 depending on the feedstocks that are utilized. And certainly that market is growing. There's over a 25 billion gallon potential market here in the U.S. alone.
The ethanol industry was also pleased with key infrastructure support.
It also provides $500 million for higher blend infrastructure for retailers, which is very important on the ethanol side. You know, we can sell higher blends of fuels like E15 or E85, but sometimes the retailers need to upgrade their equipment to do that. So that's a big part of the bill as well.
Other key provisions include $5.3 billion in farm debt relief, including $3 billion for underserved farmers. Reaction is mixed among farm groups and ag leaders. USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack is praising attributes such as conservation, clean energy, and climate change mitigation. Meanwhile, House Ag Committee Ranking Member G.T. Thompson says the bill is fiscally irresponsible and ignores problems like inflation, labor shortages, and overregulation.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And White House officials are now hitting the road to tout the president's new inflation reduction plan. Among them, Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack and U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai. The two holding events in Iowa on Thursday. The Trade Representative's office saying the event in Des Moines will, quote, highlight the Biden administration's work to expand market access for U.S. farmers, producers, and exporters, and help bring American goods to customers around the world, end quote. So what fueled inflation in the first place? Some economists believe they now have the answer. 3 Federal Reserve economists writing government programs to help people through the pandemic were what fueled it, saying, quote, we show that generous fiscal support contributed to an increase in the demand for consumption goods during the pandemic, but industrial production did not adjust quickly enough to meet the sharp increase in demand, end quote. Now, they say the imbalance between supply and demand across countries led to high inflation, but they also say it's worth noting the positive role the support did play, helping a strong economic rebound for both GDP and employment, which they say likely prevented worse outcomes. Heat is building back into the northwest this week, while the southwest could continue to see more rain. Meteorologist Matt Yersavik joins us with an update.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. The main story across the Northwest is going to be that heat. While Again, rainfall expected not only in the southwest, but also along the Gulf Coast as well. We start with the heat, though, and you take a look out in the northwest to where we've got that chance for excessive heat heading into this week. That's 10 to 15 degrees or more above average, and a good portion of the northwest dealing with that. And take a look at the temperatures heading into this afternoon. Not extremely warm, but things will continue to warm through this week for the northwest. Still hot and humid across Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of the Gulf Coast where that humidity remains high, and those pop-up storms will remain prevalent into the afternoon pretty much every day. If you take a look at this jet stream pattern here, there's a little bit of blocking going on. Parts of the northeast dealing with some cooler temperatures, some lower humidity, and a couple of systems are going to be moving through parts of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest later on towards the weekend and into next week, and that will keep things just a little bit cooler there. Meanwhile, the heat and the humidity continue across the west and across most of the center of the country. And it's a busy time in South Dakota. Joey Hansen sharing this picture saying sometimes the best helper is a 4-year-old dressed up as Spider-Man in Crocs. Looks like he knows what he's doing too. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Grain markets starting the week in the red. We'll get an update on the factors pushing prices lower next in analysis. And later, celebrating 4 decades of AgDay TV, the nationally syndicated ag business program turns 40 today. We'll look back through the years. Today in the country. The Kansas City Fed reports that conditions in the farming area it covers remain solid in the second quarter, but it says there are signs things are slowing. It says following rapid gains in farm real estate values over the past few quarters, it saw valuations moderate in the second quarter as farm income remains stronger than a year ago, but it says an increase in farm loan rates, drought, higher input costs, and that pullback in commodity prices likely contributed to a slightly less optimistic outlook about the farm economy in the second quarter. Now, it says despite the concerns, farm loan repayment problems have declined to the lowest level in more than 7 years, as you can see on the chart. Red covered the grain board to start the week, while cattle and hogs fought to stay in the green. AgDay's Michelle Rook is back with more on what's behind those market moves.
Arlen Suderman with StoneX joins us with analysis. And Arlen, Monday, risk-off day, and part of that was due to some poor economic news out of China, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really is. China, of course, had some lockdowns in some of their major cities back in April and May, and that really hurt their economy. And they started to come out of those lockdowns in June, and their economic data kind of reflected that for the June period. Today we got their July data, and it showed that that bounce that we saw in June just kind of fizzled in July. They couldn't hold it. And there's a lot of uncertainty in China right now. So even though the central bank keeps injecting stimulus into their economy, people aren't taking advantage of it. They're not borrowing money as the central bank is trying to encourage them to do with lower interest rates because of the uncertainty. They're not buying property. Property purchases are way down. Property is a big part of their economy. And so the market is worried, oh no, if China slips into a recession, they won't buy our commodities. Well, that's more true for the energies than it is the food-based commodities. People still eat, but the funds paint with a broad brush sometimes, and today was one of those days. And unfortunately, there wasn't any other compelling story to prove them wrong in that process.
Right, so crude oil lowered the dollar higher, money flow impacted the grain sector, but also on Monday we saw a little more favorable weather forecast. If that actually confirms that rain, do you think we are going to see a lot more pressure in these grains?
Oh, that's certainly possible. I don't think it's necessarily the rains themselves or the cooler weather themselves, although that helps the crops deal with the stress. Not everybody's getting the rain. In fact, most people probably won't. We still have crops under stress. Now, soybeans will be able to benefit much more than corn. But the thing is, the funds are bearish, and I never was convinced of their conviction in the rally we've seen this month in the first place. And now that they have a China story again, it gives them an excuse to sell. And what the weather does is not give them a reason to say, oh, we're wrong about China. It doesn't divert them away from China. It allows them to keep selling. It doesn't change what their current sentiment is.
We'll see if we can get some recovery. Thanks so much for joining us. Arlen Suderman with StoneX Group. You can see full analysis at agweb.com. And your weather forecast coming up.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com. Technology Days is back. August 25th through the 27th. Come see for yourself why this annual event draws thousands of farmers to Atlanta, Indiana. Learn more and register today at bexhybrids.com/field shows.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here, taking a look at our national forecast. And Matt, we start with kind of some places where we could see some excessive rainfall this week.
Yeah, and much of the same as what we've dealt with last week. Parts of the Southwest dealing with those afternoon showers and storms. But then we've also got a couple other parts of the country, especially Missouri, going to be dealing with heavy rain as we head through this week. But we'll start by looking in the Southwest and dealing with rainfall on Tuesday that we have, lots of the Southwest, dealing with parts of New Mexico into parts of Arizona, those heavier afternoon showers and storms. But then also on Tuesday, heavy rain moving through parts of Missouri. That area there is going to see the potential for some flash flooding again, and after a couple of weeks ago, not much more rain is needed in those parts. But here's a look at the rainfall over the last 24 hours, dealing with some of that rain breaking out across the upper Midwest. That's going to move right through parts of Missouri. You can see it right here, heavier rainfall possible, and then it drops farther to the south as we head through the middle part of the week. Meanwhile, still dealing with those scattered showers and thunderstorms over there to the west. Southern parts of Texas could see a little bit of that rainfall as well. And then from Florida along the Gulf Coast and even up into parts of the southeast, dealing with some of those afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms there. Most of the heavier rain, the widespread heavy rain though, is going to be right across Missouri for Tuesday and then moving to the south into Arkansas and parts of Mississippi and Tennessee for Wednesday. So here's a look at that system. This is the big system here. And then in the west, obviously, we've got the heat and the humidity. It's going to be on with those scattered showers and storms popping up pretty much every afternoon. Heading into Tuesday evening, though, notice how that storm system continues to just kind of linger down there across the Mid-South. More of that rainfall there right along it and out ahead of that warm front, and then dealing with that rain slowly starting to move towards the Gulf Coast as that front pushes south. High pressure, though, across the Great Lakes and Northeast. It's going to create some nice conditions there, but it's going to be hot and humid in parts of the Southwest. Away from where we're dealing with that rain, which will keep things a few degrees cooler, but still have the heat across the south. Temperatures in the 90s and triple digits, and then a little bit of a break from that humidity overnight. Cooler temperatures in the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. Temperatures only nearing 80 degrees across much of that area where we've got some a break from that heat and humidity that we haven't seen in quite a while. Ridge still in the west, dealing with the heat, the humidity, breaks from that in the upper Midwest and across the east because of that kind of cutoff low here that's going to keep things a little bit cooler and a little unsettled as we head through the weekend and into next week. We'll continue to track all that right here on Ag Day. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Binghamton, New York, a chance for showers, a high near 80 degrees. Chance of showers and thunderstorms there. In Farmington, Missouri, a high near 68 degrees. And Red Bluff, California, excessive heat possible, high near 106.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineRepeat.com and click Sell Mine. MachineRepeat.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online.
It's harvest time in the Ukraine, but for dairies in the country, they're fighting to gather milk every day. One of the areas of greatest concern, the eastern Donbass region, especially on one dairy farm. Only around 200 head of cattle remain of the nearly 1,300 kept at the farm before Russia invaded Ukraine in February. Managers say the 8,000-acre farm is producing 2 tons of milk a day compared to 11 tons daily before the war. Cultivating the wheat that also made up a significant portion of the farm's revenues comes with risks. For example, a worker driving a combine hit 2 landmines and is in critical condition. Kids looking for a little excitement this summer are finding it at a dairy farm in rural Illinois. Farm Journal's Dairy Herd visiting Burning Acres in Menominee. That's where Matt and Natalie Burning, along with their 5 children, all play a role on the family farm that consists of 400 milk cows and 850 acres. Now they've opened the farm's barn doors by launching a farm camp. It allows campers to start with a few morning chores. There are also activities such as making ice cream or butter from scratch. And they started with 60 campers over the summer. It's become such a hit, they've introduced an adult version called Night at the Farm, where beer, wine, and cheese lead to deeper discussions about dairy. For more on the programs, check out Karen Bonnert's story on dairyherd.com. Nothing like a little fun and good information for the farm, and that's exactly what we've been doing for 40 years. We celebrate a milestone next.
Registration is open for the 2022 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Join our team as we gain insight on the 2022 growing season in person or online. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
We're celebrating a milestone this morning on Ag Day on August 16th, 1982. Ag Day went on the air for the very first time. That means this morning we're celebrating 40 years of bringing you the latest news and stories impacting farm country. And we'd like to take a moment to look back at some of the people who helped make it happen.
Wayne, right now the U.S. exports less than 50,000 pounds of beef to Japan, but the Senate Trade Subcommittee says the potential is for 200,000 metric tons per year.
You know, Bob, statistics are showing that a pound of beef that costs $3.75 when it leaves Los Angeles is $13.07 in a Japanese supermarket.
What do you see them doing in 1983?
Well, Ralph, and be lower in 1983 compared to 1982.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Heartbeat of America.
Good morning and welcome to this Friday edition of Ag Day. I'm Joanne Serpy. Market analyst Jim Bowers with us.
Well, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen right after the first part of the year.
Good morning, this is Ag Day. I'm Bill McCormick.
A lot of people today don't know what a boarding house is. Well, it's kind of like a little hotel, only you eat your 3 meals right there.
Good morning, this is Ag Day, and I'm Al Pell. Well, good morning, friends and neighbors, as we go into this Thursday morning. And now Pam Land's here, and it's Farm Art Day.
That's right, Al. And our farm artist this morning is Laura Long.
Today's weather?
Well, we have another ugly weather day
I was afraid.
shaping up. Yeah, folks, no change certainly in this forecast.
The Easter Bunny will not be leaving much of a treat for folks in the eastern U.S. That's because you'll wake up to a very cold morning.
Richard, the ag economy remains depressed. Producers are very upset about low commodity prices.
I'm Erica Goss. History is made here at the World Dairy Expo.
Mosley also talked a lot about biotechnology at his press conference.
Meteorologist Cindy Berger joins us with more on that story. Cindy?
That's right, Al. Today's news comes from the Canadian Wheat Board.
Pikes Place Market is the nation's longest running farmers market.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. High heat and drought means USDA had to make some adjustments in its first survey-based report of the season.
We did see soybeans close higher even though we had a little bit higher yield in ending stocks. Can we build on that?
And we're not going to see very much rainfall, especially in southern Texas heading through this week. So likely see those drought conditions expanding.
That's going to wrap us up. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country. But But the celebration doesn't end there. Keep watching in the coming days and weeks as other Ag Day folks, many you might recognize, join in the celebration. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on Farm Country.
That's a wrap on the first 40 years of Ag Day. Congratulations, guys.
And here's wishing you another 40 more.